And we're joined now by the chair of the Republican Governance Group, Congressman Dave Joyce. Congressman, thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank you for having me.
So the Republican Governance Group, a group of about 50 Republican members of Congress, moderates. You describe your group as the, quote, deal makers, hell-bent on breaking through Washington's dysfunction. How much leverage do you have? How are you going to use it?
Well, our group is basically focused on making government work. We know what the problems are at home. We've heard about them. And we're not the people who you see on TV every week talking about issues that aren't germane to what the people are feeling at home. And what the people are feeling at home is, that they see all this fighting and they see all this kabuki theater taking place in D.C. But what is that doing to lower the price of gas? What is that doing to lower the groceries? How are we fixing the problems that we have with our educational system? And so the more we can deal with those type of problems and show that we can govern, then perhaps we'll be respected and given the majority back.
Your priorities sound remarkably similar to Hakeem Jeffries' priorities was just on a few minutes ago. But where are the specific areas? What are the specific pieces of legislation you all can work on together?
Well, first off, we have to set a budget. Every family lives by a budget. That's what's, and the cost of inflation has been blowing up those budgets. We have to set the budget. The numbers are going to be lower than has taken place in the last 4 years. And then we have to do the appropriations process, the 12 bills that actually spend that money, and they're going to be lower than what's happened in the last 4 years too. And that's going to take 218 votes. And as I brought up with the whole conference when we brought it up, you all talk about different things, but at the end of the day, we're going to do our job and put 12 appropriations bills out there. Are you going to have 218 votes to push this through?
Well, are there 218 votes, for example, for a program, for an idea floated by many Republicans to not extend the debt limit unless there are major cuts in programs, including perhaps Medicare and Social Security?
Well, obviously the debt limit's an issue, and there's going to be times where I hope that we don't get in a position like we did with that failed experiment in October of 13, where we shut down the government for a long period of time, because it's, in the words of the great philosopher Lebowski, that didn't end too well.
But that's what some Republicans are threatening now.
Well, but true enough. But I think while Republicans are threatening that, I think there's enough of us and enough Democrats that want to actually watch this world work, watch our government work, and make sure that government stays open. I mean, we're not going to agree on everything, obviously, but it's important that we start to focus on the things that we can agree on. And when you focus on those things, like keeping the government open, keeping the budget specifically low so that people understand what the costs and expenses of running their government is. And if you look at what we've done over a 10-year span with discretionary spending, we've actually kept the cost of running the government down. It's the mandatory spending that's driving us into the $31 trillion, as well as the excess spending in the last.
Would it make sense to clear the decks for that by just extending the debt limit perhaps permanently in this lame duck session of Congress coming up?
Well, I would think that with the Democratic majority not being completely there, they'll certainly control the presidency and the Senate, or it appear that would be at least equal in the Senate. That it would make sense for them to do those type of things, to create an omnibus right now that takes care of their priorities and set the debt limit ceiling to push it past the 24 election. That politically, I think that would make perfect sense for them.
Would you vote for it?
Well, I have to see it. I don't deal in hypotheticals, George. I got to look at the numbers. I've always, as a former prosecutor, considered myself a fact-based problem solver. So when the facts are presented to me, we'll make the decision there. I'm
going to ask you to look at the numbers for Kevin McCarthy. Right now, it looks like he does not have the 218 votes he needs for Speaker. You have 222 Republicans in the House right now. At least 5 have said, at least, that they're not going to vote for him. Does he have the votes? How will he get there?
Well, you can't beat somebody with nobody. And right now you hear that, well, we're just not going to vote for Kevin. Well, who then? I mean, Kevin deserves the opportunity. And he has done his hard work that was necessary to bring together the majority. He laid out an outline in which we could represent our constituents and this country moving forward. And we were given this opportunity to do that. And he deserves the chance to lead us. And he deserves a chance to lead for 2 years. I'm not a fan of the motion to vacate. I think that's a stupid idea. We were elected for 2 years.
That's one of the demands of your conservative counterparts in the House Republican Congress.
Right, and I still think it's stupid because we were given the opportunity to lead for 2 years. If constituents don't like what we're doing, then they can vote us out. Well, certainly we should give the Speaker the opportunity, and at the end of 2 years, then vote him out. I saw what happened to John Boehner. It wasn't fair. John was a hell of a leader, and I think we'd fared a lot better under the last presidency had Boehner been our Speaker.
How does Kevin McCarthy manage a conference that has, on the one hand, Dave Joyce and members of the Republican Governance Group, on the other hand, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert? Seems to be under great pressure from that faction of the caucus as well.
Well, you remember Kevin started as a minority leader in California, so he's used to listening to a diverse group of folks. And one thing Kevin does very well is he lays out his visions to folks and allows everybody to speak and have that opportunity. And what these people got to get used to is that if a majority of our conference agree to something, then that's how you move the ball forward. And just because 5 or 6 people don't like it doesn't mean that we should hold up the whole country.
If they stay hard-nosed and Kevin McCarthy simply can't get the 218 votes he needs for Speaker, would you be behind this effort that some have talked about? I talked to Hakeem Jeffries about, put forward a moderate Republican that would attract Democratic votes?
But I think Hakeem was also straight in that he said they want to exact some things out of that. And I just don't see anybody on our side willing to give up chairmanships or the opportunities that come with being in the majority. So that'll make it harder for anybody to actually get there. That'd probably be a perfect resolution to find somebody that everybody could agree on, and so we could start moving forward. But I just don't see it happening without, I think the Democrats are going to vote for Democrats, the Republicans will vote for Republicans, and I think at the end of the day, Kevin will be the next Speaker of the House.
I have to ask you a question about Donald Trump's statement yesterday talking about suspending the Constitution. Your reaction?
Well, you know, when President Trump was in office, I didn't make a habit of speaking out of his tweet du jour. I don't know what came out on whatever his new social platform is, but you know, people were not interested in looking backwards. The people who gave us the majority, and again, we barely won it. We barely eked it out. So let's be straight about where we're at. They gave us an opportunity, and we need to perform, and we need to care about the issues that they care about, which is how do they lower the cost at the pump. You know, I know when I go into Heinen's that the price of everything I buy, eggs, bacon, toast, it all goes up, right? It hasn't gone down. And again, people have to live within a budget. What are we doing to make sure that they fall within that budget? What are we doing to make sure that their lives are better? And how do we continue to make sure that they have the jobs and the economy is stable and they have the jobs to be able to live and take care of their families?
But Donald Trump was your nominee in 2016 and 2020. You voted for him in 2016 and 2020. Now he's talking about suspending the Constitution. Can you support a candidate in 2024 who's for suspending the Constitution?
Well, again, it's early. I think there's going to be a lot of people in the primary. I think at the end of the day, you will say whoever the Republicans end up pick, I'll fall in behind because that's...
Even if it's Donald Trump and he's called for suspending the Constitution?
Well, again, I think it's going to be a big field. I don't think Donald Trump's going to clear out the field like he did in 16.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking you if he's the nominee, will you support him?
I will support whoever the Republican nominee is. And I just don't think that at this point he'll be able to get there because I think there's a lot of other good quality candidates out there.
That's a remarkable statement. You'd support a candidate who's come out for suspending the Constitution?
Well, you know, he says a lot of things. You have to take him in context. And right now, I have to worry about making sure as a Republican governance group and a Republican majority that we make things work for American people. And I can't be really chasing every one of these crazy statements that come out from any of these candidates at the moment.
But that's an extraordinary statement. You can't come out against someone who's for suspending the Constitution?
Well, first off, he has no ability to suspend the Constitution. Secondly,
but he says he's for it.
Well, you know, he says a lot of things but that doesn't mean that it's ever going to happen. So you got to accept exact fact from fantasy, and fantasy is that we're going to suspend the Constitution and go backwards. We're moving forward, and we're going to continue to move forward as a Republican majority and as a Republican conference.
I don't see how you can move forward if your candidate is for suspending the Constitution, but thank you for your time this morning. Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.